You must remember this. A kiss is just a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh.
Good evening and welcome to Science Study Break on the Science of Kissing. My name is Roxanne Bogutska and I'm a science instruction librarian based at the Life Science Library. And I welcome you all here. We're going to have fun and we're going to get ready for Valentine's Day. But first of all, I have some legalese. So behold this legalese. Wave to the nice gent in the back who's filming. Okay? We will distribute the sounds and the pictures throughout the universe without restrictions. So now you know. Okay? So this is sponsored by the Life Science Library, one of the several libraries here on campus where we do a lot of fun programming, including something that's coming up this very week. I just want you to be aware that Darwin Day is Saturday, February the 12th, and to celebrate Darwin Day, we have a Darwin Day contest. So if you go to the www.lib.utexas.edu/LSL, then you'll see the link for the contest. You could be a winner. Yes, you. So please check that out. Science Study Break has been going on since the fall of 2006, and I see some familiar faces, so welcome back. If you're new, what we do here is we look at scenes from movies and TV shows that depict science or technology or medicine or something like that, and we have someone come in and talk to us about how accurate those depictions are. Sometimes they're really, really accurate. Like one of the first ones we did was this one about the third season of 24 that dealt with bioterror, and it was, we had Brent Iverson come and tell us how scarily accurate that was. And sometimes they're a great big joke. And sometimes we have a lot of fun using a premise from several movies to examine how to actually do some science, such as when we had Sam Scarpino come in right before Halloween a year or so ago and talk about epidemiology and zombies and how you would map a zombie outbreak using epidemiology. Okay. So it was a lot of fun. This program is sponsored by the Life Science Library and brought to you by the UT Libraries, where we have a lot of information resources for you. So for example, if you wanted to, after this program, if you were inspired to do your own research, say on kissing, then you might come to our library catalog and search for kissing. And what I'd like you to note is that you'd probably want to start compiling a list of things that you wanted to read in the course of your research. So what you would do is use this little button here that says Save to Clipboard. And then that thing has been added to the clipboard. You can see the change here. Now the button says Remove from Clipboard. Okay? Once you've done a whole list of things you want to save, you can view the clipboard by clicking the View Saved button, and then you'll see this whole list of the saved records, all the ones that you picked from the catalog. You can go and log into your account, and once you log into your account, you can create a new list or you can use existing lists. If you create a new list and name it, then those 20 records will be there and they'll be saved for you for later. So let's say you go away and then you come back next week to see your kissing research. You can just log in again through my account and then go to My Lists, and there's your list of kissing items. So here's just another way to use a resource of the UT Libraries. We're everywhere, we're online, plus we're all around you. You're in spitting distance of about 4 libraries right now. So welcome tonight to Science Study Break on the Science of Kissing, where we'll have Cheryl Kirschenbaum talk about why we like to lock lips. First of all, a little caveat for those who may be sensitive. These movies that include kissing can also include other things. Okay? Other things will be talked about. For some of these movies, other things will be shown. So I warn you now, if you are uncomfortable with frank discussions and depictions of sex, icky romantic stuff, nudity, where babies come from, or vampiric practices, then there will be times when you will need to avert your eyes during the course of this program. Some of the shows that we have deserve their R ratings, so this is not a program that is appropriate for children. So with that proviso, let me welcome Cheryl Kirschenbaum, who is a science writer and research associate at the Center for International Energy and Environmental Policy at the University of Texas at Austin. She's going to be presenting the research that she did for her latest book, The Science of Kissing. Prior to that, she has been featured in the 2010 Best American Science Writing, and she co-authored Unscientific America with Chris Mooney. which was chosen by Library Journal as one of the best sci-tech books of 2009 and was named by President Obama's science advisor, John Holdren, as his top recommended read. She also co-hosts the blog The Intersection on the Discover magazine blogs with Chris Mooney, and she serves as a science advisor to NPR's Science Friday and its nonprofit partner, Science Friday Initiative. She also serves on the program committee for the annual meeting of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. Cheryl graduated from Tufts University and has 2 Masters of Science degrees in marine biology and marine policy from the University of Maine. And in her work here with the center, she works on projects to enhance public understanding of energy issues as they relate to food, the oceans, and culture, and she's involved in conservation initiatives across levels of government and works to improve communications between scientists, policymakers, and the general public. And she's here today to present to us on the science of kissing. So please welcome Ms. Cheryl Kirschenbaum.
Well, oh. One second. All right. There we go. Thank you all so much for braving the cold and coming out to join me here to talk about, of all things, kissing, which is certainly not something I ever expected to be writing a book about, but I like to write about topics that are relevant to all of our lives, tying science to common culture. And so it started as a blog post 3 years ago on my site about a week before Valentine's Day and exploded into conferences about kissing and a book. And today I'd like to talk to you guys about what's involved when we kiss, why it's so important, and why it's such a significant experience in our lives. I also brought some books to give away throughout the discussion. So first, is there someone named, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Muj? Hi. So Muj tweeted about this, so I just wanted to start by giving her a book. She gets the first one. All right, so there's a lot I'd like to cover, so we're going to get right into it. The science of kissing. Let's see. I'll tap. I did that right, okay. Oh, where'd it go? I might need help. I just wanted to pull up the first clip. We're going to start with thinking a little bit about the human lips, why human lips are so attractive, and why the heck we coat them with things like lipstick made of sheep's glands and all sorts of other unappetizing things. Yeah. That's a bit odd. Okay, in the meantime, can I have a volunteer? I'm kidding. Okay, great. Okay. Not as technologically savvy as you would expect, but thankfully I have the wonderful Roxanne, who's incredible, by the way.
Okay, girls, playtime's over. Time to stand and let's take the head back to your desk. Thank you for your cooperation and your
Okay, so there we see Peggy Olson, if anyone watches Mad Men, handing him a basket of kisses. Humans have been, well, women especially, have been tinting our lips, dyeing our lips for thousands of years. We have evidence of women wearing lipstick in ancient Egypt and ancient Rome. But what is it about this? Why are we so attracted to the lips of another person? Does anyone have ideas? Don't be shy. Why? Yeah?
Depending on how red your lips are, like, tell us how, like, aroused you are.
That's definitely true. It's definitely true. You get a book. Can you pass this back? Can you make the way back? Anyone else? Not for a book because I'm a little limited. Okay, so that's actually perfect. I wish you guys could share that. You could meet afterwards maybe and get to know each other. So the evolution of, why do our lips look so red? This was one of the first questions I was interested in when I was setting out to write the book. And V.S. Ramachandran, who's a neuroscientist out at UC San Diego, thinks it has something to do with the fact that the color red seems to be hardwired into the human experience. It's a color that we recognize, we notice. In studying different cultures, as they create names for colors, red is frequently third after black and white, which would probably designate day from night. Red seems to be so powerful. And so what anthropologists think, and what Ramachandran and I spoke about, was that our ancestors probably needed to find ripe fruit among the brush. They needed to see colors that stood out from everything else. And the faster that they could detect them, the more likely they would be to survive, pass on their genes. And over time, the signal that red equals a food reward became hardwired into our ancestors' brains. Over time, that same signal, after earlier species could see color, started getting emphasized on parts of the female anatomy. And you can see that's actually a bonobo bottom. When a female of many primate species goes into estrus, when she's at peak fertility, she'll get a rosy bottom to let the males know that she's ready to procreate. But human ancestors at some point stood upright. And so anthropologists think that our sexual signals were co-opted, they shifted. And so we often hear about the breast being a mimic of the buttocks. And zoologist Desmond Morris actually calls the lips a genital echo, saying they're similar in shape, composition, color, texture to the female genitalia. And so lipstick is kind of an enhancement of this. Actually, Desmond Morris tested this. He sent a whole bunch of male volunteers. Being a college student volunteer offers you some interesting research experiences. But he gave male volunteers a whole bunch of different photos of women wearing various shades of lipstick, and he asked them to rate the women by who was most attractive. And what the results seemed to be over and over and over, where men were consistently choosing the women wearing the brightest, reddest shades as most attractive. There are certainly other factors involved. Proportion of facial features is important. But this red signal seems to be very powerful in our experience and does get noticed. And so it's just something to keep in mind. I don't know if lip gloss or lipstick is for everyone, but it definitely does have an alluring effect for reasons that we might not always be aware of. But moving on, that's why we might be drawn to another person's mouth, drawn to someone's lips. Actually, Desmond Morris, who I mentioned before, said lipstick manufacturers were in reality creating a pair of superlabia, which is kind of funny to think about in like the scientific literature, but there it is. But why did humans start kissing? It's not something that's required for procreation. Not every culture has always kissed. So why are we drawn to each other? And for that, let's see if I remember how to do this. Okay, maybe I don't. Thank you. I'm going to get this by the end. And that would be,
Hey, Mikey! Hey, Sarah! Hey, how you doing? Hey, come over here, man. I want to talk to you. How you doing?
I'm on the run, get go.
Yeah, right back at you, babe. Good to see you. Hey, Derek.
Sweet. Is it yours?
Yeah. So we don't know who the real mother is yet.
All right, so babies are often interpreting the world through their mouths. And did you guys see how young John Travolta looked in that movie? Because that was the first thing that I noticed. Yeah, let's blow that guy back up. Oh, wait. That. Oh, okay. All right. But our earliest experiences using our mouths are usually nursing, and the process until we had Gerber and other baby companies inventing baby food. Pre-mastication, which is the pre-chewing of food for another individual. These were the ways that we provided sustenance for children. And they're very important because they involve lip stimulation, tongue stimulation, movements that are very similar in many ways to the movements involved when we're kissing someone. When a baby's nursing, they're also experiencing for the first time sensations of love and security and comfort. And so our earliest neural pathways associated with things like a rise in oxytocin, which is popularly called the love hormone and so important in social bonding, so important in terms of attachment, begins to get stimulated from our earliest feeding experiences. And so there's many reasons to believe that feeding behaviors as young infants and toddlers are our first experiences with these sensations and are some of the same reasons that similar feelings are rekindled when we connect at the mouth as adults. I mean, it's for a different purpose, it's with a different kind of individual and a very different kind of relationship, but it does foster some of the same chemical responses, such as a rise in oxytocin. And so for that reason, you know, these are very important times in our lives and they influence us for the rest of them. But moving on a little bit, what about other species? Do you think other species kiss? Yes. See some nods? Maybe? Maybe? Okay, I'm going to try this time. I really think I can do it. Okay, maybe. Wait, I can totally get this. It'll take me a second. Okay, maybe I can't get it. I'm sorry. It's really hard. I'm surprised I get my blog up every day. Lady in the Tramp, yeah. This is one of my favorites. Does anyone have a dog? I have a dog. She kisses anything that's a noun, person, place, or thing. So do animals kiss? Well, it's a tricky question because we see so many similar kissing-like behaviors across the animal kingdom. We see, you know, lions giving what can only be prudently called an affectionate love bite during sex. Species like chimpanzees and bonobos meeting at the mouth. In fact, bonobos have been cataloged at sucking on each other's tongues for 12 minutes straight, which I don't think most of humans do. Prairie dogs, you know, they'll meet at the muzzle, at the mouth. Birds, of course, preen each other affectionately, tenderly. Dogs, as I said, any person, place, or thing. We see this over and over and over, two individuals connecting in a similar manner. But scientists have to be very, very careful when we talk about the emotional lives of other animals. We don't know what is motivating them, and no one wants to be accused of anthropomorphizing and saying, you know, these animals are falling in love, unless you're watching Lady and the Tramp, which is really sweet. It's actually one of my favorites. But at the same time, clearly these are important behaviors. So in science, you know, as I was saying, we don't say animals fall in love. We use words like mate selection or selective proceptivity to describe why they pair off. With that said, clearly there's a lot of this going on. And when Charles Darwin talked about kissing, even kissing in humans, he wanted to broaden the definition to include kissing-like behaviors. So if you want to be technical about it and, you know, respected in the scientific community, and you do broaden the definition to similar behaviors, then we certainly see this all around the animal kingdom. For reasons from affection, as we see in birds, to conflict. Those are kissing gourami, kissing fish, and they touch lips usually as a sign of aggression. We see social grooming in animals like horses, a lot of hoofed animals. Dogs will often kiss. not just to be affectionate, but as a sign of, well, social status in their social group. And so maybe it's fair to say that animals do kiss. I think it certainly is. And you can't deny that other primates are kissing like we are. And I wish I had brought the footage, actually, of bonobos kissing, because I have it. It's on my website, actually, but it's something. They just keep going. And it's quite sweet, actually. Thanks for saving me.
Now I was wondering,
Oh, I love this song.
did I give her a nice girl? I'm starting to hear this. Die. Roberta, what? I do. What are you remembering? Would it be alright? Can I kiss you? I guess. Are you ready? Sure. I mean, if you want to. Okay. Scott? Yeah? If you mention this to anyone, especially your brothers, I'll beat the shit out of you.
I adore Christina Ricci. That was amazing. Okay, so what's going on when we first kiss someone? Well, first of all, a kiss is such a powerful experience for all of us. John Bohannon at Butler University studies memory. He's a psychologist who studies memory, and he was interested in significant experiences in our lives and how we remember them, how vividly. And he was looking at things like first sexual experience, for example, and many other factors that seem very critical to all of us. And he threw in kissing just kind of as an afterthought for another variable in the experiment. Well, it turned out over and over and over, people could remember by far the most detail about a first kiss, not just a first kiss the first time in their lives, but a first kiss with any person. And based on the questions he asked, people could remember up to 90% of the details of this experience. What do you guys think here? Do you feel like you remember your first kisses? Is that raise of hands? Does it seem pretty important? So it's something that we all can relate to. And initially, it seems like, well, why is it so important? But when we're kissing someone, we're part of their personal space. We're up close and personal. So all of a sudden, we've been depending upon our vision up until that point. We're looking at things in the other person. A woman is often noticing a man's square jaw, which is a sign of testosterone. A man might be influenced by the shapeliness of a female. Characteristics that we can judge using our sight. But when we're kissing, we're engaging our scent, our taste, our touch. And all of a sudden, we're getting all sorts of information, which is telling us a little bit more about maybe what to do next. And this sculpture here, it looks very silly, but it's a sculpture based on the sensory homunculus, the neural real estate. It's like the brain's eye view of the body based on sense of touch. And the first thing you might notice is the lips are pretty large, as is the tongue, because it turns out a tremendously enormous part of the brain is involved in interpreting sensations from the mouth. Obviously not just for kissing, for eating, for temperature, but it really emphasizes that we're interpreting the world through our mouths in so many more ways than we are consciously aware of. And so when you're kissing a partner, there's a lot of information going on. All sorts of things are being transmitted and telling you about the experience. So starting with a romantic kiss, when you kiss someone, your pulse quickens, your pupils dilate, which might be one of the reasons so many of us close our eyes. your heartbeat can become faster, your breathing can become irregular. But that's only the beginning, because there's, at the same time, an entirely huge amount of changing going on in your body. The chemicals coursing through our brains and bodies is shifting. And so if it's a good kiss, a positive experience, there can be a rise in dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter associated with feelings of craving, of desire. It has so much to do with like that can't eat, can't sleep, can't wait to be with this person, and that really satisfying feeling when your lips finally meet, when you come together. Oxytocin, which I mentioned before, which is so involved in a sense of attachment, a long-term bond, not just in new relationships, but maintaining that connection over time. Oxytocin can increase. Serotonin, a neurotransmitter involved in obsessive-compulsive thoughts about someone, that gets going. And that's actually the same neurotransmitter involved in people with obsessive-compulsive disorder. And so what was really neat as I was doing all the reading, and I looked mainly in the primary literature, aside from talking to scientists as I was writing the book, but what's really interesting is when you start to think about what's happening in our bodies from all these chemical changes, it sounds a lot like the symptoms that we describe as falling in love. In addition to something I think is kind of fascinating, there was a study looking at the direction of the head tilt. So as you watch these movies, as people are kissing, try to notice that. Apparently, according to an article published in Nature, 2/3 of us turn to the right. I had trouble after I read that figuring out which way that I turned, what my natural inclination would be, because I started thinking about it too much. But 2/3 of us turn to the right. It's not correlated with right-handedness, which is interesting. And there's a theory that this might be something that we become accustomed to as a fetus is actually tilting its head back and forth in the womb, or possibly as a baby is nursing, because it's often cradled to the left, more women cradle to the left, and so the babies would be turning up to the right. We don't really know why this happens, but what I really love about this story is when the study took place, it was the scientist who went around to public parks, beaches, and airports, and he cataloged all of the kisses that he was observing. And so it's a little bit voyeuristic, bordering possibly on a little creepy, but it did make the journal Nature, which is pretty amazing, because I mean, kissing is something so many of us take for granted, and very little research has actually gone into it, but it's such an important behavior in our lives. Okay, oh, I love the next one. Okay, we're gonna talk about a chapter in my book called Women Are From Venus, Men Are Easy. I just started watching The Big Bang Theory, so I was so excited when I saw this come up.
Hello, Leslie.
Hi, Leonard.
Leslie, I would like to propose an experiment. Right. Leslie, I would like to propose an experiment.
Hang on. I'm trying to see how long it takes a 500 kilowatt oxygen iodine laser to heat up my cup of noodles.
I've done it in about 2 seconds, 2.6 per minute running. Anyway, I was thinking more of a biosocial exploration with a neurochemical overlay.
Wait, are you asking me out?
I was going to characterize it as a modification of our colleague/friendship paradigm with the addition of a daylight component, but we don't need to quibble over terminology.
What sort of experiment would you propose?
There is a generally accepted pattern in this area. I would pick you up, take you to a restaurant, then we would see a movie,
okay if I do
probably a
Q&A at the
romantic
end? I
comedy
thought that
featuring
would
the
be a little
talents of
easier
Hugh
to
Grant or
figure
Sandra
out.
Bullock.
Interesting. But would you agree that the primary way we would evaluate either the success or failure of the date would be based on the biochemical reaction during a goodnight kiss?
Heart rate, pheromones, etc. Yes.
Well, why don't we just stipulate
When is
the
the
date
break
as well and
for
we
taking
keep
a
variable?
commercial break?
You mean kissing now?
Yes.
Can you define the parameters of the kiss?
Not enough, but romantic. Hint?
You'll do it for the Q&A. Okay.
Shall I count down from 3?
No, I think it needs to be spontaneous. What do you think?
You propose the experiment. I think you should present your findings first.
Fair enough. On the plus side, it was a good kiss, reasonable technique, no extraneous spittle. On the other hand, no arousal.
None?
None.
Ah. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
There's so much much I love about that clip. It's part of the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory is it's a show that's actually advised by the Science and Entertainment Exchange in Hollywood. They have real astrophysicists involved in creating the plot, which I think is really neat because only 18% of Americans say they know a scientist personally. So most people are getting their impressions about what science is and who scientists are from the media. So I love that show. I have to give it some props there. But there we saw these two characters go in for a kiss. A few things to notice, apart from the way they got together. Do you guys notice that Leslie popped a breath mint? Well, women pay a lot of attention to the breath and taste of a partner. And so I just thought that was a nice little detail they got in there. On top of that, so for you guys, who might be too personal, but raise your hand if you really like open mouth kissing as opposed to closed mouth kissing. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Okay, now keep your hand up if you're male. A lot of the same hands. Okay. Well, it turns out in social experiments, social surveys, Gordon Gallup at SUNY Albany was interested in preferences and attitudes about women kissing. And he found that men tend to express a strong preference for passionate, open mouth kisses, whereas women are constantly going, too much tongue is disgusting. It's not universal at all. I mean, it's obviously a generalization. But initially it's kind of funny, but there's some science behind, there's some science behind why this might be. It turns out that men have a small amount of testosterone in their saliva, the male sex hormone. And so it's possible that over weeks and months, as a man is kissing the same woman for an extended period of time, this does not happen overnight, so it won't work on your first dates, but it's possible that this added testosterone in his saliva can enhance his partner's libido. So it would be advantageous for guys to be open mouth kissing, and that may in part explain that preference, even though we're not quite consciously aware of why that's taking place. Okay, so what else is different between men and women? Initially, it irked me. So Gordon Gallup, who I just mentioned, did this enormous survey, over 1,000 people, and here were some of his results just to run through them. Women, far more likely to see kissing as a good way to assess compatibility, initiate, maintain, and monitor a long-term relationship. They were putting all the emphasis on the act of kissing itself. How does he feel about me? I can tell that from a kiss. Should I pursue a relationship with him? Do we have a future together? That kind of information. That's why women were reporting they were kissing a man. They are more likely to focus on the breath and taste of a partner, pay very close attention to his teeth, and they placed higher value on kissing before, during, and after sex. Okay, what about the guys? A little different. Here's Charlie Sheen. Men said kissing seems to be more of a means to an end over and over. They are more interested in facial and body attractiveness than a kiss itself, more likely to cite finding a good kisser as reason to start a relationship, more likely to kiss someone they knew only wanted to have sex, and more likely to have sex with someone they consider a bad kisser. And in fact, taking that another level, the likelihood of having sex with someone who's a bad kisser for men was much higher than for women. And I love this one, the willingness to have sex without kissing. So a lot of guys, or more than half the guys, were like, sure. And a lot of women were like, are you implying I'm a prostitute? What is that? And in fact, prostitutes throughout history have not been kissing. It's a very intimate behavior, and they often cite they want to keep their emotions out of that context. So what's going on? I mean, this irked me. Does anyone have a guess? Because I don't like stereotypes. This is something I really felt uncomfortable talking about in the book, and it wasn't until I called up Gordon Gallup and really drilled him on what his survey was really discussing that it started to fit together a little better. So does anyone have any ideas about why men and women's preferences and attitudes on kissing might be distinct?
It's not necessarily the best from man's interest to be in love with the same person as sex with versus girls that want to keep them with them.
It's a very interesting theory. Does anyone else have any ideas?
I think women have to be more selective who they sleep with.
I think that's a great answer. And yours was great too, but she gets the book. So you can pass that back. It has a lot to do with the next clip. And so we're going to look at that for a second.
Oh, God, Mom. I'm gonna burst if you don't kiss me.
I don't know about you, but I love the special effects from back then with the little lightning bolts. Okay, so what's going on? Well, reproductive biology is what's going on. So it's important for women to really take the time to assess a partner, figure out whether this is someone who is compatible for you, for us. And so, you know, women are born literally with all of our eggs in two baskets, our ovaries. We have a very short window each month for a limited number of years to reproduce. And we want to make sure the person that we choose is probably a good genetic match, which you can actually potentially tell by kissing someone in a small subconscious way, which I'll talk about in a moment. We want to be with someone who's probably going to stick around and take care of us and take care of a child. And so we have a greater sensitivity to things like taste and things like scent. And all of this information is providing clues. And so when we kiss someone, there's a lot to trusting the way that your body feels. Kissing is in many ways nature's ultimate litmus test. But men, well, they produce a lot of sperm throughout their lives, and barring a medical condition can continue to do so indefinitely. There's a guy in India who's 91 who just had his like 19th child or something, and so much of the world is related to Genghis Khan. It's pretty ridiculous because he was, I mean, it's funny, but he was raping women everywhere in lands he was conquering, and because of that, he was such a genetically successful individual. And they trace back people from all different parts of the world to Genghis Khan. And so from there, we're going to talk about hormones. I want to leave a little time for some questions at the end, so I'm going to try to get through these a little bit quicker. That's Marty's mom, just so you know. She doesn't know it's her son.
He's gone back to 1955.
You mean like how you're supposed to act on the first date? Sort of. I think I know exactly what you mean. You do? What did I do in this situation? What? Don't worry. I don't know what it is. But when I kiss you, it's like I'm kissing my brother. Yes, that doesn't make any sense, does it? Believe me, it makes perfect sense. It's coming.
And then Biff spoils the moment even more. So, Marty kisses his mom, and they're both kind of like, oh. And she doesn't know it's her son, who's traveled back in time 30 years, that she's a crush on. But she senses something's off. And there's a great story about the power of scent. Klaus Wedekind, who did a famous sweaty t-shirt experiment, studied the MHC. It's called the Major Histocompatibility Complex, and it's a set of genes responsible for our immune systems. Well, in his research, he found that women are most attracted to the natural scents of men with a distinct set of genes, a different set of genes that code for immunity than they have. And the advantage of this would be more genetic diversity for the baby in this particular area. And so a child with, a different set from each parent would be more likely to be healthy, stronger, and more likely to survive and pass on their genes. And so that's just one reason. Of course, this would probably be a star-crossed match. But, our bodies are telling us a lot of information, and we're not consciously going, oh, is this person's genes, are they right for me? But something feels off, and there's a reason to trust that. It's, as I think I said earlier, nature's ultimate litmus test. But moving along, there is the ugly part of kissing in a chapter I have called There Are Such Things as Cooties. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that as well.
Spain has just released a monkey that he was smuggling into the country, and it had a virus.
This movie scared the heck out of me when it came out.
Hey, mister? Are you going to eat the rest of that cookie?
No. You can have it, Sharon.
No. Bobby, don't bother the nice man.
This is the problem. Now, I don't want to have trouble with the law.
Let's do that one too, and then we'll maybe just do the notebook here. It's short, so let's do that one, and then we'll just do the notebook and skip these guys really quickly. And so this couple winds up being the first to die from this big plague that happens in Outbreak. Because when you think about it, why would we have evolved to exchange and swap mucus, viruses, bacteria? When you think about kissing, it's a little gross. And as I said, there are such things as cooties. But the truth is, yes, kissing can spread pretty much most anything through what's called the oral fecal route, a little disgustingly. It can spread all of these diseases, but it's actually a relatively safe and very healthy behavior compared to many of the other things that we do. But there is one more thing that, there's a lot, often a far more dangerous bacteria exchanged in a handshake than through a kiss, which is something else to keep in mind. So do not fear the lips of the person you love. But yeah, just this one to you. HBO. Anna Paquin, by the way, was also in Now and Then, which we saw earlier. What I love about that scene is that, well, what I don't love about that scene, I should say, is that so many young people are really interested in biting each other all of a sudden because of things like Twilight and True Blood and so many other movies and books. And I just want to do a little PSA, public service announcement. Please don't bite the people you love. It's probably the worst way to show them that you care because you're literally injecting gobs of potentially dangerous bacteria into their bloodstream. And it's a really bad idea. It's very dangerous. You can get blood poisoning. You can go into shock. Don't do it. And then I was going to talk a little about hormones, but basically a lot of hormones are changing in our bodies, causing us to foster a connection. I want to get to the end because I want to open it up to you, and I know Roxanne has something more to say as well. And so from there, let's just, Valentine's Day is coming up. So let's talk about the right chemistry. But maybe we'll play that clip first. I guess just a Notebook. That's a classic and that's short. The dialogue's not important if you can't hear it. It's dialogue. And we have one of the greatest on-screen kisses. It won many awards. I think it won the MTV Award that year for Best Kiss. And so what's going right? I mean, what makes a good kiss, right? Because we're a few days away from Valentine's Day. Kissing's on a lot of our minds. So I just want to leave you guys with a few suggestions. First, the obvious. Personal hygiene matters. I know it seems really basic, but it's really important. As I said, women pay attention so much, especially to breath and taste. And of course, there are scents you can't control, like your own, this natural scent that could give you a little bit of your partner a hint at things like immunity. But for the most part, just pay attention. And again, as all that lipstick research suggests, gloss and lipstick can actually be an asset if you're comfortable wearing it. But if you're not comfortable wearing it, don't do it, because stress and kissing don't mix. When you're stressed, your body is producing this hormone called cortisol, the stress hormone. And if that's really flowing in your body, it's not going to feel right. It could also be influenced by the environment. So as the third one says, a comfortable environment can make a big difference. If you feel like someone's putting a lot of pressure on you, if it's an inappropriate setting, if you're in a mosque or a temple or a church, unless that's your thing, it's not going to feel good. If the timing's bad, if you're just not ready. So making sure that it's a very comfortable environment matters a lot. Laying a solid hormonal foundation, if you've been, after someone for a long time, if this isn't like a one-night stand kind of fling, if there's someone that you care about and you want to potentially start a relationship with, getting to know them first, as cliche as that sounds, can actually make a difference, because spending time with someone, even before you're making that kind of physical connection, plays a role in how you're both going to respond to the kiss. Not to mention, if you're anticipating it, dreaming about it, and then it happens and it's great, it's going to feel all the better because of that dopamine is going to be spiking even higher. It's going to be a really, really satisfying experience. And I didn't do this because I'm out of college, but when it matters, limiting alcohol and drugs, it again sounds a little cliche or perhaps a bit conservative, but if there is a lot riding on the experience, if this is someone that you really care about, kissing in your brain is acting like a drug. It's going to alter a little bit, maybe your even sense of reality. It's going to really provide a lot of information about the other person. And you shouldn't mix a lot of drugs. So you could have the best kiss ever, but the other person could be like, oh, well, I had VR goggles on. Or it could feel great. You could take things to the next level. And then wake up the next morning and realize you were a really poorly suited match, but the drugs and alcohol were just influencing the way you felt. And then ultimately, the thing I really want to leave everybody, I see someone covering their face, I'm not sure why. Right, you get the last book for that because you're bright red. Like when you find a partner, when you find someone you love, and also especially with your family members and friends, kiss often. It's something that often falls by the wayside in long-term relationships. Oh, he's still red, he's so cute. though kissing matters, it does foster this bond. The oxytocin, which can be stimulated by other things, is also very much promoted through kissing, and that encourages people to stay together. Long-term relationships are very dependent on this bond. So, you know, kissing is a healthy thing to do, and make sure you're doing enough of it. And with that, I'll let Roxanne speak for a moment. Do you want? Okay. Kind of stuck to my pants.
I'm just going to hold this. We're going to open it up to some questions in a moment, so be thinking about what you would like to ask Cheryl. Don't be shy. But first, I want to thank you all for coming out on this very cold night, and I hope that you've enjoyed the scenes that we saw and the cake and the refreshments. And I want to tell you that we'll be having another science study break in late March or early April. And I also want to tell you about some very special news that I'm really excited about. Starting with this science study break, we've entered into a relationship because of a generous gift from University Federal Credit Union. We have some representatives here that I'd like to thank very much. So wave to these nice people from UFCU. So thank you so much for your sponsorship of Science Study Break. And also they're sponsoring your Valentine's Day success. Back on that back table back there, you know, there's little chapsticks and lip balms. So remember, you know, the feel of the lips, it's important. So don't forget to get one on your way out the door. Okay. All right, so I hope you've had time to think of any questions that you might have for Cheryl. Remember, you do have feedback forms there, and we would like you to fill those out and let us know what you think about the program and what we should do in the future. And I'll hand it back.
And I just want to add, you know, this was just a snapshot of what's in the book. It also covers, there's a chapter on history, a chapter on culture, a chapter on the future of kissing involving online dating. And so you can ask questions about any of that, too. And thank you, Federal Credit Union, Linda, Lindsay, and Katie. Appreciate it. And also, you can hear more Friday on Science Friday. I think Friday on the Today Show, tomorrow on Martha Stewart. So lots of other opportunities to hear about kissing. But let's get some questions. Yes?
In the picture clip, it seems that you could tell your chemistry with the person from your kiss. Is there a way to improve on that? If you're first kiss with the person, you think, oh God, there's no chemistry. Is there a way to improve that?
That is a great question. That is a great question, and I hope none of you have a first kiss like in that clip, because they're a little too clinical, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, a first kiss doesn't make it or break it. A lot of people, so I don't remember if I gave this statistic before, 59% of men, 66% of women have said that they've ended a budding relationship because of a bad first kiss. So it does have this really powerful way to tell you a lot about whether you want to be with this person beyond the kiss. But as I was saying before, you know, stress can influence the encounter. All these other factors can make it feel like a bad kiss when otherwise you're well suited. And a lot of it has to do with more than the kiss. Sharing values, common goals, interests that you do together, all play a role in how you feel about someone. And so kissing is part of the equation, but not all of it. And of course, as you get to know someone, it's a lot about individual experience. It's a lot about just growing together. And so yeah, there's a lot you can do to make it better. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's a super question because, I mean, when you think about it, humans haven't been brushing our teeth and using mouthwash for very long, and so a kiss itself probably was a very different experience than it is today. So one of my favorite chapters was actually the history chapter, which I didn't talk about, and a lot of people all around the world were not kissing, or at least they were not kissing mouth to mouth. So we saw similar behaviors, especially involving things on the face like patting, rubbing, blowing, but that weren't a kiss as we'd see. So one of the things I did was dig through all of these logs of 18th century European explorers from the 1800s who were spreading the practice. I mean, kissing initially started spreading, much of kissing started spreading from the Romans as they were sending their military out throughout parts of Europe and beyond. But then as European explorers started traveling further and further, they were bringing the practice with them. But so I was digging in all these travel logs and journals and reading about people's experiences in places like Finland, parts of Finland, where kissing was just considered completely obscene. They would bathe together nude with the opposite sex, but they would not kiss. One of my favorites is from Africa. This young man went to Africa and he meets the king's daughter of this tribe, and he says, oh, I fell completely in love with her. At least that's how he described it. He probably thought she was pretty. But he finally summons up the courage at one point to kiss her. And he's going to kiss her, and he kisses her on the mouth, and she runs screaming from the hut. And at that point, he realizes, oh, she thought I was planning to eat her, because why else would I be pressing my lips against hers? So yeah, now it's really hard to say who may or may not be kissing, because we've exported it so far. I mean, especially through Hollywood films and literature, many places that haven't traditionally kissed now do. On top of that, many places where kissing was completely indecent in public, it's starting to be more accepted in parts of Japan and parts of China. But I did come across one peoples that wouldn't kiss, but they would nip at each other's eyelashes, and that was probably the weirdest one that I came across. Anyone else? Yeah. From evolutionary psychology, you mean? So that's actually where I got pretty much all the information from that women and men chapter, those gender differences. That was Gordon Gallup's work, as I said, but there were a lot of other studies from parts of Australia. I wanted to make it as universal as I could. It's not just about kissing in the US. It's not just about heterosexual kissing. And so that chapter is heavily, heavily based on that. It's tricky sometimes because I don't always like just pointing out correlations. So in the book, I'm skeptical of certain studies. But I think that there's a lot of merit to some of them as well, and tells us a lot about ourselves and our culture.
Do you plan to pursue further research on this topic?
So that's interesting. So I'm sitting on this mountain of literature, most of it not on kissing itself. Very little research has been done on kissing, probably because it's so difficult to figure out the significance of a single kiss when there's so many kinds of kisses. And then on top of that, it's sort of considered a silly soft science or a silly science, so I think a lot of researchers are hesitant to explore sexuality, especially up until recently, particularly and interestingly female sexuality, where there's practically nothing in some areas. But anyway, I was very interested in gender differences, and there hadn't been much neuroscience done. So in the book, I've actually worked with a neuroscientist at New York University to use a brain scanning machine to look at people's responses to kissing, and found some interesting results. That will be published soon. We have a manuscript ready to submit in hopefully an open access journal so people can read about the research as well. And I point to a lot of directions where I think research can go, and people have already started asking me if they could do those studies, so it would be pretty neat to see where things go next.
Did you study or write about homosexuals at all?
Of course I did. I thought that was so interesting to include, and homosexuality had been ignored in so much of the research. In part because it couldn't be included, like for certain studies, like the men and women studies, they wanted to standardize the people who were responding. But there's this great research out of Lafayette College with Wendy Hill and Carrie Wilson, who study endocrinology. They study hormones, and I would have talked more about this if I had time. But they're interested in how hormones change in the body. They looked at lesbian women and heterosexual couples, and they invited student volunteers to come make out in a health facility. And after, they would prod them with needles and have them spit in a cup. And so what I love about this research is they were expecting to see changes in oxytocin and cortisol associated with kissing, and they sort of did, but it wasn't quite what they expected. And then they thought, oh, gee, making out in a health facility and then getting stuck with a needle might alter your experience and make it hard to be in the moment. And so they repeated the study in the back of one of the buildings that they set up candlelight and music and a couch. And I just love that they did this. So they're still waiting for results on some of that. But yeah, and I'm sorry, what? That was Carrie Wilson and Wendy Hill. They're at Lafayette. And my study at NYU looking at the brain involved heterosexual and homosexual kisses as well, because it's part of the population, right? Anyone else?
Is there a difference between gender preferences for length of kisses?
For length, did you say? I didn't come across anywhere where that had been studied, but that's a pretty good question. I don't know. And it's probably, so kissing is a really great example of a behavior that's both nature and nurture. So it's something we seem to have an instinctive drive to do, but it's so much shaped by our experiences and our culture. And so, I mean, that could be individual preference, but it'd be interesting to test as well. Well, thank you all so much. This was really fun. Happy Valentine's Day.
Hang on, if you want to hear more about this, and there's so much more, it's so fascinating, on Friday at 5, Science in the Pub will have the fabulous Cheryl Kirschenbaum at the Cactus Cafe. So, come to the Cactus and hear more about this. Otherwise, thanks for coming out. Thank you to Cheryl and to UFCU for sponsoring the program. And turn in your feedback forms, eat more candy, and recycle your bottles and cans. We'll see you in March.